Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Anish.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure connecting with everyone.
Same here. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a lag, Anish, with your connection.
Okay, I hope it's okay now, or
I think
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
so
Great.
let's get started. We are going live on YouTube right now. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the speakers, the keynote speaker, and all the participants who have registered for this webinar on the occasion of MSME Day, which is actually falling tomorrow. But since it's a Sunday tomorrow, we thought we can have this discussion with eminent people who are connected with MSMEs in many ways today itself. So I'm happy to host this webinar today for bringing up some points about MSMEs, how they are getting affected with COVID, and how skill development can help them, perhaps, come back to their shape or improve their performance, productivity, and many other things. So by focusing on skill development, upskilling, and reskilling, we would like to get started today. But before I start inviting the keynote speaker, I would just like to give a brief about the MSME sector, then introduce all the speakers quickly. So as all of you may be aware or may not be aware, let me tell you that MSME sector plays a very, very crucial role in India. It's the backbone of India's economy. India has approximately 6.5 crore MSMEs according to the reports. It is the largest provider of jobs, contributes 30% to India's GDP. That's a huge contribution. MSMEs also play an important role in employment generation, as they employ more than 110 million people across the country. In terms of exports also, they contribute to 40% of India's overall exports. And recently, the government has declared that it is their aim to increase the MSME sector share in the GDP to 40% through various schemes that can also benefit the rural poor. However, in spite of being such a big, important, identity that they have, MSMEs are always facing several problems in terms of access to skilled workforce, in terms of capital, in terms of uncertainty which must have started with demonetization and got aggravated with COVID-19. So there are many such things which are, challenges for them to sustain and grow. And in such a backdrop, we are now wondering how skilling can help, skilling, reskilling, upskilling can help them in two ways. When we talk about skilling, reskilling, and upskilling for MSMEs, the first part of the skilling is for the entrepreneur himself or herself. So we have a lot of entrepreneurship development programs for MSMEs, micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs, which are hosted by various institutes in India. That is one part of the skilling. The second part of the skilling is skilling for the workforce which are employed by MSMEs. So there are these two aspects of skilling when we come to MSMEs. So with this, I would like to summarize the importance of MSMEs in India and how the aspects that we are going to touch upon in today's webinar is going to help us to look at various issues and come up with few action points. Now, let me get started by introducing the speakers today. We are very fortunate, glad, and privileged to have Dr. Chandan Chowdhury, Senior Associate Dean and Practice Professor, Indian School of Business, that's ISB. He is also the Executive Director, Munjal Institute for Global Manufacturing and Punj Lloyd Institute of Infrastructure Management. Welcome to the webinar, sir. We are going to request you to deliver the keynote address after I introduce the rest of the speakers. Then we have Mr. Sandeep Bhatnagar, who is the Director Marketing from NIMSME in Hyderabad. This is the National Institute for Training Small, Medium, and Micro, Small, and Medium Entrepreneurs. They have a lovely campus, and Mr. Sandeep has been there for a very long time. He's always excited about talking about the growth of MSMEs, how we can contribute to it. Now, in the context of COVID, COVID-19, I'm sure he's going to share more points. Then we have Mr. Sudarshan, BV Sudarshan, who's Deputy Managing Director, NTTF. We have long been associated with Mr. Sudarshan and seen his enthusiasm and energies whenever we talk about skill development training for various industry sectors, particularly Industry 4.0. That's what we are going to ask him to speak on today. Then we have Mr. Vishwanath Kamath, Managing Director, Fronius India Private Limited. Welcome to the webinar, sir. He is a champion, always championing the cause of skilling, particularly in the area of welding. So let's look forward to what he has to say. Then we have Mr. Ameya Vanjari, Head Technology and Innovation at Tata Strive. Mr. Ameya has been leading several projects at Tata Strive which have to do with blended learning, innovative ways of learning, and he also has the big picture view of how training and skilling can contribute to MSME sectors. Then we have Mr. Anish Chandran, who is Vice President Corporate Development at Sahi. Sahi is a startup doing fantastic work to create a digital platform to connect people with work in various models like gig model, through apprenticeship, through contact staffing, and many other things. So we look forward to hear him. Welcome to the webinar, Anish. Let's go ahead now. I request Professor Chandan Chowdhury to deliver his keynote address.
Yeah, are you able to see my slide? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
yes.
Good morning to all of you, and I must tell you that today's topic is very important, because if our country got to achieve its aspirations of becoming a $5 trillion economy, I think MSMEs need to scale up. What I'm going to do is briefly discuss 4 points. The first is to give some idea about the current reality. Where do we stand really? And then what are the aspirations? That's the second thing I want to discuss. And also probably just have a few slides to talk about our research and our insights on what are the impacts of COVID-19 on the MSMEs businesses. More importantly, how do we enhance MSMEs' contribution to our economy? And then finally, I have a slide where we'll sum up the key takeaways. Now, friends, I would like to share with you, it's always important to do a reality check to really understand where do we stand. So if we look at the history from 2011-12 until now, often we actually refer to COVID to justify the problems that we have. But COVID happened recently. We started experiencing it not long back. So if we look at the trend, kind of last 10 years data, you will find that MSME's contribution to GDP stayed at a number from 30 to 29.34 to 30.4%. And that's the reality. That's the reality. And I have put the graph in a manner that you see from 28.6 to 30.4, at least psychologically we feel that a lot of good things are happening. Now let's understand. This is about contribution to GDP. Now we want this figure to go up very significantly. So we want to do something significantly different, not what has happened in the last decade. Or we want to go up from kind of currently 30% to 40%. And 10% additional contribution to GDP is not a small thing. It's something very big. Something got to change. What should change? I would like to share some of my thoughts. Now let's look at the second aspect, which is the export. Again, if you look at export, well, there was a jump I would say after 2011-12, we saw a real big jump. It went up, then again it plateaued, right? So we are at a number which is around 48%. And there is an aspiration that we ought to move to 60%. And that's a lot, right? Whole world is becoming more competitive. Even our neighboring countries are becoming more competitive. Now the question is, if 48% going to go up to 60%, question is how? What should change? Something got to change. And this cannot be achieved just through slogans. We got to understand what should change at a ground level. Now let's look at the third part of it. Employment is a big subject, right? It is a big subject, and people are generally very hesitant to talk about employment, right? How many people in the country are not employed, right? How many males who are in the working age are not employed, looking for a job? How many females, how many ladies, how many women in the working age looking for a job don't have a job? So we are generally very uncomfortable discussing numbers related to employment. So if you really look at MSMEs do a very significant contribution to employment. Now in 2005-06, after that, the number of MSMEs have gone up. And Dr. Madhuri was talking about the current number, which is around 63.3 million. Now, if you really look at, if the number of MSMEs have gone up significantly, if the number of people who are employed has gone up, then what's missing? Why is it that we are not seeing an impact on economy? That's because there is a problem, and there are a couple of problems, and I would like to highlight 3 problems that we see as to why MSMEs are not able to contribute to economy. I'm not going to discuss about government regulations, government policies. Are they good, bad, okay, not okay? I'm not going to discuss that. I want to discuss stuff which is within our control. Now, if we talk about 3 major problems are, one is productivity. There's a big problem with productivity. And you can see on the graph, right? Number of MSMEs has gone up. Number of people working in MSMEs have gone up, but its contribution to economy has not gone up. So something somewhere must be wrong. One of the problems is productivity. Productivity is very low. Second is we are not able to scale up. MSMEs, majority of them find it difficult to scale up. The third is way people do business has changed. Even domestic business, India is very big. Domestic and international market access is very, very important. And if you look at the projections, it is said that by the end of this year, if you look at the global purchases, total global purchases, we are going to see probably more than 27% of total purchases happening online. It is projected by 2040, we'll see some 95% of all purchases happening online. So market access and access to e-commerce is very, very important. And if you look at MSMEs, the number of companies which are today accessing are there in the marketplace is very, very insignificant. In fact, well, we have done a study in one of the states, and we have studied ground level, the MSMEs. We'll be shortly releasing that report. I'm not sharing, the highlights right now. But I must tell you, when it comes to productivity, right? When it comes to scale, the number of people employed by an MSME, when you compare India with China, with Philippines, with Indonesia, you actually find that those countries are much ahead of us. If you look at India, you have kind of 84% of the manufacturers in India would employ less than 50 people. And this number is quite different when you go to China, for example. China, 75% of the organizations will have more than 50 people. So we have a problem. Now, the second problem is the productivity. So our MSMEs are 25 to 65% as productive as their small scale peers elsewhere. Now, this study was reported in 2009 by Asian Development Bank, and subsequently, we have conducted a very recent study where we had 195 respondents. We wanted to see what has changed, right? What has changed? We find that there has not been significant change. 82% of the companies have less than 50 employees, right? Based on this study. And in 2009, it was 84. So there has not been a significant improvement as far as scale is concerned. Now, we did a study to really understand impact of COVID on MSMEs and impact of COVID in general, on organization. Our study shows that the inbound logistics is in bad shape. Outbound logistics got impacted. You find organizations are not getting new orders. Even if they have orders, they're finding it difficult to deliver the order because they're finding it difficult to procure items. It's very easy saying, right, we shall not import. That's the easiest statement to make. We must remember, whenever we say we will not import, right, from XYZ country, we must remember even XYZ country will not import from us. So this whole discussion on don't import, right, is a conversation which was okay maybe 20 years back. Today, I would feel we have to stand up. Companies got to do innovation. We got to come out with products which are globally competitive. And we cannot just, create a wall in our geography and say, we'll not import and our companies will become globally competitive. The conversation is not as simple as that. Now, I would like to share with you, there's a study that we had done, and our study shows that there is a very negative impact on bottom line of companies. MSMEs are having a big problem with their cash. In our study, 97.6% of them said they're having a big problem with cash. We actually had discussion with companies. We wanted to know what is their assessment. Would the way we do business change post-COVID-19? Is it going to be different? 71.9% of the companies think that the way we do business will change. What was interesting is to understand that when we ask them questions, what do you think about product portfolio offerings that you have? Do you think you need to review that? 80.7% of companies say they need to review product portfolio. You had 95% of the companies stated that they believe digital knowledge will be a must. I think we have to scale up digital knowledge in MSMEs. We conducted a study to really understand companies which has got good digital footprint. What is the degree of impact of COVID-19 on them, right? Is there a difference between companies which did not have good digital footprint versus others? When we wanted to understand what companies think, do they think that e-commerce got to scale up? 90.3% of the companies feel that they need to scale up their e-commerce business. We had 74.1% of the companies say they believe they need to reboot knowledge. So skilling is going to be extremely important. Our study shows 88.9% of the companies, right, they believe global digital network will be critical for scaling up the business. You have 94.3% of the companies say that government should build digital infrastructure for MSMEs. I think as far as government is concerned, we should not only be talking about physical roads and physical infrastructure. Unless we understand that we got to also build digital infrastructure. And it is not just payment and taxes and GST, right? Are we building digital infrastructure that MSMEs can leverage to do innovation? I think that's going to be very important. Doesn't matter whether government does it or it happens, government does it through a private-public partnership, but MSMEs may not have the bandwidth to use sophisticated digital innovation infrastructure to come out with world-class products, services, and offerings and have market access. We must remember when you do selling through third-party marketplaces, we need to shell out margin, and MSMEs operate through thin margin. Now, just to sum up my discussion, I would like to say that I am personally very excited about our Prime Minister's vision. Prime Minister said that we want India to be a USD $5 trillion economy by 24-25. And not long back, in the month of February 2021, government reaffirmed, said that yes, we are not changing our plan. We want to be a $5 trillion economy. Let me make a statement today, which you can validate by 24-25. If this got to happen, MSMEs got to accelerate the growth. Skilling is going to be extremely important, right? MSMEs got to do significant contribution. Last 10 years, we have seen contribution to GDP remained almost at a number around 30%. That has to go up. And if it has to go up to 40%, something got to change. And something got to change very, very significantly. Definitely scaling is one of them. Productivity is one of them. Digital infrastructure is one of them. So I think there's three basic problems. That is enhancing productivity by improving skills and processes, improving the scale by adapting best business practices to become more globally competitive. We need to leverage digital innovation infrastructure for business transformation and market access. And I think government through private-public partnership needs to create modern digital infrastructure for MSMEs to accelerate its growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views and all the information and the details so very succinctly and in such a simple way. Thanks for reiterating the importance of skilling and connecting it with productivity, scalability, and being globally competitive. We will take the questions towards the end of the session, sir. So if possible, do wait in and then you can also listen to our other speakers and perhaps we can take all the points later. Thanks again, sir. Now we move on to the next speaker. That's Mr. Sandeep Bhatnagar. Just a note before we get started, we had requested Ms. Gloria Swarupa, the Director General of NIMSME, for the session, but because of a personal emergency, she couldn't make it. We are lucky to have Sandeep with us now. So I request Sandeep to share his views in the backdrop of COVID-19. How is it that NIMSME is taking steps in the area of skilling, upskilling, and also focus, if possible, on women entrepreneurs? Are there any important initiatives coming up for women entrepreneurs?
Thank you, ma'am, and good afternoon to everyone. And a special thanks to Professor Chaudhary. I was listening to his brilliant talk. So we being part of Ministry of MSME, National Institute of MSME, we are certainly working towards what Professor Chaudhary has been highlighting. Our mandate is to work and achieve towards $5 trillion economy. And to achieve that, Government of India has taken number of steps to make it a reality in coming times. And we are certainly working towards and working with MSMEs across India in that direction. So before I jump onto activities which we are doing, I would like to, I don't know how many of us are aware of our National Institute of MSME. And so a little background that we were established way back in 1962. And we have been working with UNIDO, UNESCO, ILO, and from more than 130 countries, developing countries, people are coming to us, taking training and going back to their countries and learning, various skills from us. And other than that, we have trained till now more than 5 lakh participants all across India by organizing more than 16,000 programs, across India. And if I talk about specifically to skill training part, we have we have built the capacity of more than 1 lakh educated unemployed youth. And this is under various projects, initiatives which have been taken. And these are, to sum up what we have been doing. And all across, we have been supported by Ministry of MSME in various initiatives which we have been doing. And if I talk about, the agenda for today, what initiatives as such our institute, National Institute for MSME is doing, we are doing a lot of initiative has been taken. Just if we talk about the recent initiatives, we are about to start for women entrepreneurship, a program for women capacity building from 28th of this month itself. And that is, that aim to build the capacity of some 4,000 women in Jammu Kashmir in association with their trade promotion organization. So to begin with, we are starting on launching that program from 28th. Then, we have taken a lot of initiatives for women entrepreneurship development programs, which are sponsored by DST, and we have it's been organized for last 10 years. So, and the aim is to build. We have been building the capacity of more than 4,000 women there. Other than that, we have been organizing year on year some skill development program, because as you mentioned, the 3 areas. First is this building up the skills, and we also reiterate that it is the most important area where we should focus on. Second, you pointed out on the building the best practices. So that is also the initiative which we have been taking, so that to impart them the right skills. And in that front, what we have been doing is we have trained nearly 5,000 women under various skill programs, where they can be self-empowered, right from small skills like, fashion, beauty, wellness, photography, tailoring, food processing. All those skills have been imparted to women so that they can become Atmanirbhar and, lead whatever way they can, forward. Once they are trained, we also ensure that they're given all kind of linkages with the banks. They're supported through MSME schemes to start their enterprises. And we also ensure that there is a good hand-holding given to them so that they can further avail the loans and, flourish. Not to mention, one more thing I would like to mention, that we have also working with SC/ST women, underprivileged women also under that group, where we have trained more than 500 women recently for various food technologies. We have been distributing kits to them for, sewing machines, tailoring machines, so that they can set up their own enterprise. And also, we also have one center which is exclusively dedicated to the cluster development under NIMSME. That is called NRCD, National Resource Center for Cluster Development, where we are involved with development of more than 50 rural artisan industry clusters across the nation, with the support of KVIC, COIR Board, NSFDC, and other various state governments. So, and that includes for all the development programs of handloom, handicrafts, for food processing, textile clusters. So all these initiatives we have been taking, and rest I would be eager to listen from rest of the panelists, and then we can discuss on the action points as well. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep, for giving us an overview of NIMSME and the wonderful activities that are happening there to empower micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs and those who aspire to become entrepreneurs as well. From here, I think let's move on to getting a different view now from Mr. B.V. Sudarshan, who's the Deputy Managing Director, NTTF. Welcome, sir, once again. And I request you to tell us more about the need for reskilling and upskilling, particularly to cater to the needs of manufacturing sector, MSME in the manufacturing sector, keeping in mind there are so many entrepreneurs who are from NTTF who are under this sector, and also your training activities which help them, to learn. And if you can give us all this information in the backdrop of COVID-19, that would be very helpful.
Thank you, Madhuri. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Still 12 o'clock, good morning, good afternoon. And this is really so important topic, which is very apt. As you said, MSME is the backbone of Indian economy, 30% GDP, and importantly, 12 crore people employed and their families and their livelihood. And we talked about Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, which can only be possible with the MSME being competitive. So before I move on, in my previous assignment, I was heading the procurement and supply chain for various MNCs, and I have visited over 500 MSMEs, and I have audited many MSMEs as well. So a typical setup of an MSME is a single owner with 1 to 5 qualified technical staff, or so-called operators or helpers. Most of the operators do repetitive operations like loading or unloading a part in a CNC machine, or operate a press with preloaded tool and take out sheet metal parts, or welding or filing or deburring or assembling some parts. So these are all the main processes in the manufacturing industry. And remember, most of the workforce is migrant, and educational qualification varies from 5th standard to 10th standard, and some of them could be ITIs as well. So whereas in most of the other countries, the similar jobs are done with the robots, or even in India, robots are overtaking the jobs. I want to make one point very clear here. The irony is we are working more and more with the machines and making machines and equipments more intelligent every day, even in skilling. Through artificial intelligence, machine learning, or deep learning, machines are becoming more skillful and keep on learning and adjusting to the changing scenario. So what are the efforts to skill the MSMEs workforce? Out of 12 crore employed in MSME sector, maybe 15 to 20% have got the required qualification. Maybe another 30% acquired skill through work or knowledge through work. The first and foremost need is to do the recognition of prior learning. So this will set a base of skill level, then we can take it forward. This needs a special attention, this RPL. So we have seen certain operators have developed skills to maintain complete machines, or even programming to a greater extent. Even reading and engineering drawing, understanding the tolerant is also a great skill. So all these skills must be properly recognized, and the structure has to be there so that they can move up in the ladder, either horizontally or vertically. They can make a career progression, which is still very much lagging in India. Okay, then moving on to the post, or there is no post-COVID, we have to work with the COVID scenario. The way business is done is already transformed to a new normal, right? And we'll get further transformation through digital disruptions. So MSMEs must possess digital skills to adapt. So Professor Chandan already mentioned this. So internet has become common ground for both the MSMEs and the customers. Customer transaction, business processes are led by internet and mostly online today. And this has led to an unprecedented rise in the importance of having a well-built website, presence in the online platform, and social media efforts. So Professor also touched upon this very much. This is the basic need if we have to be very, very competitive in the coming days, because it's a global village. Anybody can compete anywhere in the world. So we need to be top in the digital skills. So we need to start a movement on the digital skills. As there are several platforms already available for learning, like Mojoversity offers basic skilling in GST, email marketing, business accounting, etc., of course for free. And similarly, Google also started an initiative that Making Small Strong offers various short videos, digital skills, and one can learn from various self-paced videos, from web presence to driving online growth. Of course, there is a catch to it. One needs to have a fair good amount of English knowledge to acquire all these skills, which also need to be addressed when we are talking about skilling MSMEs. And also my favorite tagline, lifelong learning aptitude has to be inculcated in the business owners of MSMEs. It is nothing that it is over, we have learned everything. So we need to have a mindset of lifelong learning. Coming to the most important topic, you have been talking about the buzzword Industry 4.0 for the manufacturing industry. There are various definitions and concept of Industry 4.0 because various people talk different things. The most interesting one I found is the collective term for technologies and concepts for value chain organization. In Industry 4.0, what happens is people, machines, products are directly connected to each other. So there are a lot of technologies involved in Industry 4.0, system integration, Internet of Things, simulation, additive manufacturing, cloud computing, AR, big data, cybersecurity, and autonomous robots and cobots. The question is, how do we prepare the MSMEs for these? Largely depends on the first having the basic infrastructure needed, like broadband and data communication, as Industry 4.0 demands real-time data. So Professor also mentioned this. This is the infrastructure is a must. Secondly, we should start with the awareness of how Industry 4.0 will get implemented and how MSMEs can cope up. This is where we at NTTF and Bosch have done a lot of things together, and we have come out with a basic Industry 4.0 skill, wherein people can have hands-on experience on the sensor technology, IoT, data, and also they have a chance to visit the Bosch factory and see how Industry 4.0 is implemented. So the basic thing to start, which can be done in various methods, is first data collection and analysis. If we bring in such concept first and train MSMEs to be ready to interact with their customer with the data, then the first step is achieved. And the new machines or equipments are already coming with data communication capabilities. So MSMEs must adapt and learn this quickly, because all new machines will talk to internet, will talk to other machines already. And it is all not easy for MSMEs, as it comes with the investment and also certain basic knowledge needed to upskill. See, the question is troubling almost everyone. Even when the projected completion of the vaccination this year, recovery will take time. Many pandemic changes, so-called, will continue to be a norm, as they have resulted in new customer habits and demands. Therefore, this is the time one must hone the skills and prepare for 2022 onwards. So I want to end with this. MSME means the translation today is minimum skilling and minimum expenditure because of their financial constraints. And we should turn the table for MSMEs, which means more skilling, more earning going forward. I'll stop at this. I'll come back with action later.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sudarshan. That was a very interesting interpretation of MSME and the new definition that you gave, which is kind of summarizing the COVID-related realities that we are going to face for a very long time. Thank you so much. Now I welcome Mr. Vishwanath Kamath, who is the Managing Director of Fronius India Limited. Mr. Kamath, please continue the discussion and add your points in the backdrop of what Mr. Sudarshan has said about digital skilling using technology from the welding skills perspective, because we felt that welding is one of the core skills that most of the MSMEs will need. So let's hear it from Mr. Kamath.
Thank you, madam. And at the outset, let me wish everybody a very happy World MSME Day in advance. It's tomorrow, but thanks, madam, for organizing this webinar, and thanks, Mr. Sudarshan, for the new definition, more skilling and more earning. I think that's really apt. I was listening very carefully to Professor Chaudhary, and it's amazing to know that 8% of Indian population is employed by MSME, and if you add another 50 million in the coming years, it will be almost close to double digit of the population will be in MSME. And 30% to the GDP, 48% export, and it comes with the problems like productivity, scale up, and e-commerce. So I'm representing here is from Fronius India, and more importantly, I'm representing the complete welding fraternity of India. We have three different businesses, welding, solar, and battery charging. But today I will be talking more about welding, because MSME and welding goes hand in hand, because they are welded together. Welding is nothing but joining the metal, and also welding is nothing but joining the profit with the owner. It's extremely important. I must give some experience. First of all, this Fronius is an European organization, and I have seen many type of skilling work which happens in the developed countries and how it happens in India. Somehow I am not in agreement when everybody talked about the reskilling or upskilling. That will come when you have a basic skill. So I think we are at the level of basic skilling. Let me say with certain examples. In India, welding course in ITI, these are the institutions which produces welder to the industry. And welders play extremely, extremely important role in any organization. They can make a job or they can break a job. I think many MSME owners, if they're listening to me, they know that they are also the most troublemakers, because welding is perceived as the most skilled job. It's not just like a machining or turning or XYZ where you give a command to the machine and it works on its own. Welding requires hand. And some people have a very good skill. Some people understand the arc. Some people have the sixth sense to understand what's going right or wrong. And a failure of a weld joint can be a catastrophic. So they know it very well and they play a very, very important role. But I think Mr. Sudarshan talked about more and more, and previous speaker talked about the machines are becoming intelligent. Yes, machines are becoming intelligent because people are putting their brain into the machine. But machine cannot do everything on its own until and unless we come out, very specifically, I'm talking to MSME, that we come out a very specific mindset of Jugaad. Sometimes we always take a pride that, we are very good in Jugaad, but I think it's not required. And by doing this, we are unnecessarily decreasing our productivity. I think one of the topic, Professor Chaudhary talked about productivity. Let me give a small example. India put together in yellow goods, when I'm talking about excavator and backhoe loader, all put together, we are around 44,000 construction equipment per year. I'm not talking about concrete mixer and all those things. I visited one single plant near Shanghai in Kunshan, which belongs to SANY. SANY has 3 major plants in China. One single plant produces 60,000 excavator per year. And you'll be surprised to know that only 450 employees working in that organization. Just 450. And this is, I'm talking about way back in 2012. So when the Industry 4.0 was not the buzzword, but I saw actually it is in action there. People sitting in the shop floor in charge sits in at home and he sees what's going right, what is going wrong. 450 people and excavator were assembled on an assembly line, which is just unimaginable. But it does not mean that by having just 450 people and producing 60,000 excavator, China is having unemployment. No, everybody is employed there. So it is possible until unless we don't embrace the technologies. And when it comes to what Madhuri Madam asked me in the era of digital, that's a COVID, like we are all connected from Chandigarh to us, from Mohali to Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad. So digital connectivity is extremely good. But when it comes to skilling, I would say that I think until unless there's a physical presence, especially in the field of welding, it is just not possible. It is something like I'm teaching somebody swimming over a digital platform. And actually what happens, you know it very well when you push him to the water. So it all depends on his mental strength, whether he survives or dies. But he would have undergone hours and hours of classes over digital media. So it holds good for other skill also. But in welding, I must say that the physical presence is extremely important. On a digital platform, you can definitely give some thumb rules. For example, what gas you should use, what the theoretical knowledge is absolutely perfect. But if you want to make somebody a welder or a skilled welder, which can contribute to the development of MSME, I think physical presence is extremely important. As Fronius India, during this time, I mean, one of the most affected the segment is the students. Look at some people are there from last 16 months in the same class, and they have been talking to only those 14-inch screen in front of them day in, day out. So we decided that we will do some digital internship for those students. So far, we have covered 93 colleges and we have kept students engaged, and we asked them that what should we do to make India grow? And some of the suggestions given by these students were really, really extremely out of the box thinking. But for skilling, and especially when it comes to welding, I still feel that physical presence is extremely important. What we are doing it's just to fill in the gap. But I hope that time will come when the vaccination, when we have a recovery. I think until unless we don't move out of this Jugadu mentality, I think it's difficult to improve the productivity. So that's my 2 cents for this webinar. Over to you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamath, for reiterating the need for physical presence while we do skilling, and at least for a few of the kind of skills that we need. So till now, I think we were mostly focusing on the manufacturing sector, but now let's move on to the non-manufacturing or services sector in MSME. And for this, I invite Mr. Ameya Vanjari, who's Head Operations, Partnerships, Technology and Innovation at Tata Stripe. So Ameya, we would like to hear from you what you have to say about inculcating the entrepreneurial mindset, particularly in the backdrop of COVID-19 among the non-manufacturing MSMEs.
Sure. Thank you, Madhuri, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be on this panel and very glad to be connected with other panelists. Some of them we work together, but thank you for connecting me with other panelists. What the thoughts that I'm going to share today are going to be based on a few things. One, the work that we do through our skilling centers. Nearly 50% of our learners are recruited by MSMEs, are recruited by small enterprises, and we are present in about nearly over 100 locations across the country. The sectors in which they get employed are hospitality, healthcare, as well as auto, refrigeration. These are sectors, but also not only in the manufacturing side, but also in the repairs and operation side of things. So that is one. The second one is we work with various ITIs, and we try to connect the students of ITIs to MSMEs to give them the industry exposure. So through that program, we get connected with various MSMEs, and that has provided certain insights to us. And third, which the point that Madhuri was referring to, entrepreneurial mindset, we have certain programs within Tata Stripe to create entrepreneurs. We call them nano entrepreneurs, start their journey on entrepreneurship through various programs. We have programs in Maharashtra and Odisha currently going on actively. So through those programs, we are trying to create entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial mindset, and that to us is clearly a huge lever by which we could address the issue of livelihoods in our country. So those are the three avenues on basis of which some of the thoughts that I'm going to share are based on. Having spoken to various MSME, either associations or entrepreneurs themselves, there is no denial of the fact, and Professor Chaudhary's few slides also refer to it, that we are going through challenging times, especially the MSMEs are going through challenging times. The downturn in terms of the business, the migrant workforce actually going back to their base homes, and some of them returning back, but not all of them, and that causing a huge skill gap. The demand from various customers is down, and those are challenges that most MSMEs are facing, barring a few bright spots across certain industries, be it healthcare, pharmacy, electronics, or essential retail. These are some of the bright spots that are there even during COVID times, but that doesn't contribute significantly. If you look at it from a statistical standpoint, that is not significant in our country. So overall, the situation is challenging. But if I have to think about few things that we could do to as a skilling ecosystem that we could potentially look at to address and help the MSME industry itself, there are three points that that I could summarize or I could think of. One is creating, so there is no denial of the fact that the workforce is a migrant workforce for most MSMEs. There are supply states as far as resources are concerned, and there are demand state in which the resources who migrate get employed. What can we do to create enthusiasm, to bring in dignity, to bring in awareness, and encourage the local youth to join MSMEs and reduce that migration pattern? Is there anything that we could do to do that? And if we could, and that will require various things. That will require working with youth to change their mindset, but also, as we say, democratize skill development as well. The skill development opportunity should not be concentrated in a few places, but can it be available across all districts in our country? If that is available, if these two things could be done, and it's not a small work, it is a long shot when it comes to changing of mindsets. It's a big road to travel. But if we could create or if we could increase the local youth participation in MSMEs, that is something that we could work on. And we work on a program, as we call it, Skill Mitra, Udyog Mitra, where Udyog Mitras are small, nano, micro, medium-sized enterprises who provide apprentice opportunities for youth, formally, informally. But these mechanisms are mechanisms by which the true skill development happens. As I was hearing Mr. Kamath, that you need the hand skill, you need the practice time for skills to be developed, and Udyog Mitras provide those opportunities. MSMEs are a good ground to provide those opportunities. So increasing locally skilled workforce is one. The second one, I think both Professor Chaudhary as well as Mr. Sudarshan spoke about, is technology is significantly changing the landscape and changing the value chain itself across industries. And especially when it comes to service industry, as Madhuri spoke of, that I should focus on service industry. In service industry, it is completely significantly disrupting value chains. Before, if I go back 3-4 years, when we were providing a lot of our recruitment from, let's say, healthcare was directly in hospitals. A lot of our recruitment from or students who graduated from hospitality were in large hotels and large premises. And that is changing significantly. If I look at today, the healthcare graduates actually get deployed in organizations like Kotia. A lot of learners from our ecosystem get employed by the urban clubs of the world. And these are platforms, these are emerging places for skills to be deployed. These are platforms that are disrupting the value chain. And similarly, most enterprises, be it in the manufacturing side, be it in the service side, today have an option to relook at their value chain and see if there is an opportunity to disintermediate. So not going the traditional value chain, but can you go directly to the large enterprises? There are Amazons of the world, even our Tata Group, as well as some of the large telecom organizations are working towards helping MSMEs directly connect with large enterprises and disintermediate various value chains. So that's the other thing. And that basically requires MSMEs to have digital skills, which both Mr. Sudarshan and Professor Chaudhary spoke about, not only to take advantage of e-commerce, but also look at various processes, be it GST, be it recruitment, be it education, learning and development. Learning and development platforms are no longer available only to large corporates. They are available even for MSMEs, and MSMEs should take advantage of that. So digital awareness, digital skills as an organization is the second thing. And last one, the third one is something that I can relate to myself. I have been working with various roles within TCS for about 20 years, large organization, 9,000 employees when I joined, to today 4.8 lakh employees. But I have been in the last 6 years working with Tata Scribe, where we were a concept on the board with 3 employees joining to today 350 employees. So we have in some way, in many ways, traversed the journey of scaling up a small enterprise. And while doing that, I have literally worked on each and every function, be it while technology, be it innovation, but also infrastructure of designing centers and setting it up, to preparing for our board meetings. So it's across all functions that you get exposure to when you're working with small enterprises. And the need for these multi-skilled workforce is a need that is there in small enterprises more so than large enterprises. So can we relook at our skill development programs and see if there is an opportunity to create multi-skill enterprise or multi-skilled workforce programs? To give an example, we have a program for the hospitality industry, for F&B steward, and there is another program for chef or commis chef programs. Can we merge the two for the small enterprises? Because if you go into a small enterprise or a medium mid-sized hotel, you will see that individuals who are employed actually do both the skills in some ways or others. So can we look at these multi-skilled enterprises? And that's also it's not only the service industry or even the operators. For example, when I have a program with Tata Sky on DTH, can I train the same individual to also do CCTV installation and electrician? Can I look at them, equipping them with multiple skills for them to have a sustainable livelihood if there are cycles in every industry? So there is an opportunity for skill development ecosystem to relook or rethink of what they're offering to help MSMEs. And those I thought were a few thoughts that I could share today, Madhuri. Back to you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Please stay on, Ameya. We're going to come back to you after a while. Thanks for sharing important points regarding various industries, and also you touched upon the way recruitment happens, the way placements happen, and also the how the employees stay on, and the kind of skilling which is needed, multi-skilling. And connected with this, now we also need to look at how recruitment happens and how staffing happens and how models are changing today. So if people are under the notion that getting a job means a job in a big glass building with a fat salary and lot of security, sorry, that has changed over the years. And today the reality is gig work. Today the reality is contract staffing. So to understand more on these topics, I invite Mr. Anish Chandran, who is the Vice President, Corporate Development at Sahi. So Anish, please tell us more about how hiring processes and patterns are changing by taking all the points that we discussed so far.
Sure. Thank you so much, Madhuri. Thanks to NSN for inviting me for this webinar. Pleasure to be on the platform and pleasure to be interacting with all the fellow panelists. Quickly, I come from a consulting, human capital background, and last couple of years I've been involved with in the staffing industry, hiring people both at a contract level as well as gig staffing level for various clients across industries. And I'll share some of the examples of these models being adopted. But before we delve deep into these models, I would just look at what are some of the underlying reasons for the changes that we are seeing in hiring processes for organizations, and why are these models, when we say a gig model or a contract staffing model or freelancing model or even apprenticeship, why are these emerging at a significant scale? We have seen that transition happening over the past few years, and with COVID and the pandemic, there seems to be an acceleration on this front. And what are the underlying reasons for these models to emerge? And when I say emerge, it is not that these models are new. In India, these models have been around for many, many years in a very informal way. Now, what we are seeing is these are getting more formalized. There is a recognition that is happening, from a gig platform perspective. It is happening in the labor laws, which we hope to get implemented pretty soon. So these changes, these underlying reasons of these models are very critical. And one of the primary reason, and Professor Chaudhary very aptly put it together, the first and the foremost reason for this is productivity. And when we look at productivity, and some numbers that Professor Chaudhary and some of the other panelists shared in terms of how we compare against other industries or other geographies from a productivity perspective. I was looking at MSMEs in India, 6.3 crore MSMEs as against 3.8 crores in China versus 2.7 crores in United States. Our contribution to GDP is 30%. China's contribution to GDP is 60% versus United States, the contribution to GDP from MSMEs is 50%. That really highlights the difference in productivity that we have across these countries that are, one, United States is way above in terms of development. But if you look at China, more populated than us, but they are doing a fantastic job in terms of productivity. While productivity being a very pertinent issue, and it's not just for MSMEs, it is for pretty much every organization in the country. And the reason why these emerging trends are coming is companies are increasingly focusing, and there are multiple stakeholders involved in it. There's government, there are these associations for various industries, MSME as a group, large organizations. All of us are collectively thinking about how to improve productivity for India as a whole. The 5 trillion target can only be achieved if we are more productive, and it has to be across all segments of the industry. What is happening, and it started over the past few years, and there is a lot of impetus towards is some of the labor market transitions that we are seeing. And there are 4 pertinent transitions that are, as we speak, ongoing, and some of them are getting increasingly accelerated by the pandemic situation. I'll just briefly talk about these 4 transitions because these really, put everything in perspective in terms of why we need productivity to improve. One of the transition is the school to work transition. We have seen government coming up with the national education policy, which is going to be implemented in the next few years. A key element of that is vocational education at the school level. Some of it is already happening in government schools, but we would see that increasingly being adopted across most of the educational institutions. Students from 9th grade onwards can actually get trained on vocational trades. So what happens is, apart from education, you're trained on certain skills, and by the time you pass out of your schools and colleges, there are certain skill sets that you've already inculcated and learned. The next transition is from unemployment to employment, which is, students passing out of schools and colleges with basic knowledge do not have the skill set to get employed. Unemployment to employment is the other transition that we're looking at that is happening, which is from a point of view of generating more employment from an employer's perspective, and from a unemployment perspective, can we have skilling and skilling complement the education that we are that are happening at the school and college level. The third transition that we're seeing is from underemployment to better employment, which basically is a person who starts with earning 200 rupees a day. Can that person earn 2,000 rupees a day? And that journey from 2,000 to 200 to 2,000 rupees is all about skilling, reskilling, upskilling, and adoption of technology that some of the other panelists talked about, which is very critical. And the last transition that we're seeing is this monthly wage going to a daily wage, going to a outcome-based wage. And that is where all of these models that we're talking about, whether it's gig, apprenticeship, contract staffing, all of these are critical part of enabling these transitions to happen over the next few years. Now, coming back to the question on hiring, I think what most organizations are now doing is to enhance productivity. They're looking at their activities and splitting out these activities into small tasks that can be delivered on an outcome basis. And that is where these models of contract staffing, gig staffing plays a critical role. These tasks can be delivered by an individual on an outcome basis, and those outcomes can actually be paid for on completion of that task. So that transition is what we are seeing. In addition to that, specifically on MSMEs, I think one of the key aspects for MSMEs is when I look at the total number of MSMEs, 6.3 crores, 97% of these MSMEs are micro enterprises, which essentially means they have people that we can count on fingers, which means that they cannot have some of these technologies or some of these models that we're talking about. They adopting these models would not be scalable for them as an individual. But what we see is, and what we also push for is, can the MSMEs come together, form a collective and work? I'll talk more about this, from the recommendations that I have later on, but I'll hold on this thought for now, and maybe we can just circle back with other recommendations, and then I can talk about specifically what I have in mind for in terms of my recommendation. Thank you so much. Madhuri, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anish, for sharing your points and the transitions you were mentioning. As you said, we will of course get back after a show. I request all the panelists to watch this demo, which is from Fronius, and this is a product which they are going to demo for MSMEs. So can we get started soon after the product demo? This is going to be for 10 minutes. Soon after the demo, we'll come back and collect all the important action points that all the panelists have to share. And Professor Chandan Chowdhury, you can also share your points with us as we come to the close after this demo. Can we have the demo, please? The live demo.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, namaste and welcome to Fronius India and welcome to our Skill and Innovation Center in Pune. So, if you can see in our Skill and Innovation Center, we have 6 manual booths which are available where the students can come and can do the can take the training here. Apart from that, we are using these stations for our customer trials and demonstrations. Apart from this, we do also have 4 robotic stations and one entirely cell for end-to-end solutions, which is known as automation in welding. Since this program is mainly for MSME, we do have machines dedicatedly for MSME industries. You can see on your screen the first machine, which is known as electrode welding or arc welding machine, with which one can burn 3.15 mm of electrode continuously. And these machines are really useful for indoor as well as for the outdoor applications. The second machine you can see on your screen is mainly dedicatedly for TIG welding machines. So SS fabricators like dairy equipment manufacturer, pharma equipment manufacturer can use this kind of welding machines. The third machine for MSME is for SS as well as for aluminum fabricators, and this is known as Magic Wave 230i. I stands for Intelligent Revolution, and in this machine you can set your parameters, you can save thousands jobs, and you can literally lock the parameters like the smartphones. You lock the parameters. And the most important machine which I want to discuss or I want to tell you is our MIG-MAG welding machine, which is known as Trans Steel series. During the pandemic, lot of skilled worker has gone to their hometown, and the MSMEs are facing the problems of skilled manpower. With this machine, a person can do arc welding machine, that is MMAW welding machine, TIG welding machine, as well as GMAW, that is MIG-MAG welding machine. You can see on your screen the different types of options which are available, like TIG welding machine, stick welding, as well as MIG-MAG welding machine. And in this machine, you can do steel, stainless steel, as well as aluminum also. So this is all round one in all welding machine which MSME can use to face their welding challenges. Now, coming to the demonstration, the most important machine which we are going to show you is our Trans Steel machine, Trans Steel 5000 Pulse. As the name suggested, it is mainly used for steel welding machine. But apart from that, with this welding machine, one can do steel, stainless steel, aluminum, copper also. In our welding machine, if you give the job thickness, the machine will automatically give you value of current and voltage. So once you get the desired parameters, you can save this in a like a job in the program. So in this welding machine, you can save 5 jobs: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So without wasting your time, we are going for practical demonstrations. We have our application engineer, Mr. Amit Munda, who will present the live practical demonstrations of this welding machine. The first job which we are showing to you on 10 mm thickness plate. So Amit, you can start. So you can see on your screen right now, there are very, very minimal spatters And with this function is known as pulse control spray arc. So with this, you can get the proper welding speed as well as the desired penetration into the base metal. So we have done this job on thick metal plate that is known as 10 thickness. So moving forward, uh, we are giving another demonstrations of our welding machine where MSME needs good aesthetics. So this is a function which is known as the synchro pulse, on which we are doing the demonstration. The thickness of the plate is 8 So you can see on your screen a proper bead aesthetics with minimal spatters with our function, which is known as the synchro pulse function. So this is a very good function, and with this you can get good aesthetics not only on thick plate as well as on the thin plates also. So this is a really good feature, and the kind of finish in TIG welding or GTAW or argon welding is normally comes with this function. It is with synchro pulse it is coming, and you can increase your productivity. Now the next demonstration which we are going to show on a basically thin plate, which is a 2 plate, and you can see basically actually the gap also which we have kept it 2 to 3 and this is mainly for panel manufacturers or sheet metal fabricators, normally where they are getting un and even jobs. So we have a function which is known as a spot and stitch function, on which we are going for the demonstration. So you can see on your screen, we have given a certain timing for welding and for welding stop. So with this spot and stitch function, a person can easily do the welding with our welding machine, although there is a gap on thin sheets also. So you can see on your screen the proper bead with minimal spatters. You can see on your screen on a 2 thickness. And the last demonstration which we are carrying out is on uh, the most of the people are facing the problem in root welding, and in industries people normally do root welding with TIG welding or GTAW welding or argon welding machines. So you can see on your screen there is a purposefully we have kept the gap of close to 3 You can see on your screen, you can see my hand also from the background, so on which we are going to do the welding. So you can see on your screen, the root welding has been done and you will get the even penetration. And if you see on the welding side also, there are very, very minimal spatters, and this welding we have done against the gravity. So this is what about our welding machines. But before that, I just want to tell something about our application engineer, Amit Munda. He is there with us from last 1.5 years, and he has came from a small town from Orissa, and he is there with us from last 1.5 years. And I want to tell you that he is doing a really, really good job. And he has got the training for 45 days in our skill and innovation center. So this is how we trained our people. So just to summarize and to tell about our machine, that any MSME can come with their welding challenge, and we are here to sort out all your welding challenges here. All our welding machines, the trans-steel machines, is also available with data documentation, that is Industry 4.0. So I urge all the MSMEs or the participants who are looking right now, please come with your welding challenges, and we are here to solve your welding challenges, and we will definitely solve your welding challenges. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul, Amit, and the entire Fronius team. This demo, I hope, was useful for our audience, particularly who have got a live demonstration of welding, a very important skill. We have included this also to showcase the importance of manual skilling and the respect manual skilling training needs in India, and how a person can grow by learning a skill like welding, like we saw the example of Amit there. Now we move on to
Thank you, ma'am.
yeah,
Thank you.
now we move on to the next part, which is actually the concluding part of this webinar. And I request all the panelists and the keynote speaker, Professor Chandan Chowdhury, if we can prolong this for maybe 5 to 10 minutes after the prescribed time that we have. We might extend by, let's say, 1:05 or 1:10, so that we wind it up in a much more meaningful way. We are getting a lot of comments as well. So I would like to get started by asking the panelists to share 3 action points, each one of you, one by one. Then I would request Professor Chandan Chowdhury to share his observations and points on this webinar that we conducted. I hope this is agreeable to all of you, and I would like to proceed with that. So first, I would like to ask Sandeep to share his 3 action points, or 3 important points that he feels are relevant to conclude today's discussion.
Thank you, madam, and thanks for giving us the opportunity. And it was wonderful to see the live demonstration by your team, especially for the welding techniques that can be employed by most of the MSMEs. We will talk with the organization separately how we can do this for wider MSMEs that come across to us. As far as action points are concerned, we think all the panelists were right to the point, and there are many things which we can take away from all of them. Especially if I talk about our action points, what we have jotted down is how we can leverage IT tools and the digital tools to really make the things happen for MSMEs, things work for. So leveraging IT tools or the digital tools for giving them more focus towards market and making business transformation possible using IT tools should be one of the action points which we suggest. And whether it is Industry 4.0, which you have beautifully demonstrated, could be integrated, and added to that e-commerce, how we can even integrate the small MSMEs to sell their products online through various digital marketing initiatives, or many initiatives. We come across various MSMEs that are using even channels like YouTube to promote their products. So this should become more common. It should come as on the forefront. So they're organically using it by clipping their videos, making it viral, and they have introduced themselves. Nobody has taught them those techniques. So in how we can use this more often by MSMEs to leverage their product, give more focus towards market, and create a business transformation in themselves by creating setting benchmarks within themselves, comparing them to the global MSMEs, and coming out in a better wider platform. The other thing we want to focus as National Institute for MSME is in the current scenario, especially in the current scenario where we are facing a pandemic situation, and there is a war-like situation against the waves of COVID. So we want, we as an institute want to focus more on MSMEs that are focusing on manufacturing of oxygen cylinders, oxygen generators, oxygen concentrators, liquid oxygen, and they might be even we are talking about those MSMEs that are engaged in the product or providing services relating to any fighting coronavirus. I would say the remedies like from pulse oximeters. There are permitted drugs, which most of them are intended to make ventilators, where they are we are incentivizing them to come out with manufacturing plants and whatever help we can. That also includes PPE kits, inhalation masks, ICU beds, cardiac monitors, syringes, pumps, portable X-ray machines. So all those are our focus areas, and from MSME in coordination with SIDBI and other organizations, we are giving them key attractions to come up with these facilities, using these facilities. We are giving them 100% finance, which is at very low collateral option. We are waived off most of the processing fee, and also there is a credit guarantee option also available to them, which for which charges are borne by like say organizations like SIDBI. So all these initiatives we think are our action points, and as in a whole we would like to suggest that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep, for sharing these points. And now I request Mr. Sudarshan to share 3 most important action points in the backdrop of the discussions we've had so far.
Thank you, Madhuri. So I think I made a mention of all these points in my earlier speech as well. So number 1 is the RPL, recognition of prior learning, because this is very important. About 6 to 7 crore of MSMEs employed, they don't have a valid certification. So we need to speed up and scale up this RPL, because then it sets a strong base for the next level of skilling. Otherwise, the people who are working maybe between the age of 25 to 35 years, 40 years are left behind in whole scheme of skilling. So that is the number 1 priority for MSMEs, which all the industries and the government should focus. And the second one, I already mentioned, and the professor also touched upon, the digital literacy. Encourage and promote basic internet and digital skills to operate business and promote business for MSMEs. That is very key, because I come across several MSAs where they don't even have a proper website and they can't even connect in the internet and communicate. So this, if we are talking about 5 trillion economy and then digital disruption, this is a must going forward. And the third one is Industry 4.0. The awareness campaign for MSME is a must. See, all big OEMs and tier 1 companies, they have implementing and they are racing ahead, but they are leaving MSMEs far behind. But when they completely implement the Industry 4.0, then there will be definitely mismatch. Then MSMEs are not ready to cope up. So the industries must take the entire supply chain along with them when they are implementing the Industry 4.0. It is the industry also should take the ownership, and also the government and the institute encourage the implementation of Industry 4.0. So this is my 3 main points.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those very precise points and reiterating the importance of RPL, which I think is very important for the informal sector to be formalized, and MSME happens to be a very unorganized and informal sector in India. So I request all the panelists to stay on, because we are getting few questions. And as I said, I would be extending this for about 10 minutes because the discussions have been too exciting. And it was really difficult for me to tell everybody, please stick to 5 minutes or 7 minutes. So I hope you bear with this little bit of extension. Now I move on, and I invite Mr. Kamath to share his 3 action points.
Thank you, madam. But I will promise you that I will stick to 5 minutes. So I understand on a Saturday afternoon. So yes, there are 3 points. All of you saw the demonstration. I mean, I'm sure before when we showed the demonstration, you thought it's what's this welding? Is it possible to show it online, X, Y, Z? But I'm sure you were fascinated to see a good-looking welder. When I say good-looking welder, he is with all the safety gears. I think that is my first action point. MSME, like more skilling and more earning, is only possible. You add another 3 more letters, that is PPE, personal protection equipment. Without that, I think earning is not possible. American Welding Society has estimated there would be a shortage of close to 500,000 welder by 2024. So if you look at our Prime Minister, what he said, that we want to be the world skill capital. I think there's a average age of welder in United States and Canada is 54 today. And I must say that it is 54 because they have been using a proper personal protection equipment. In India, it's difficult to find a welder who is beyond 50 and is able to do a perfect welding job. That's predominantly because we have been not using a proper personal protection equipment. I think MSME, it's getting a welder itself is a difficult job. And if you want to enhance their life, professional life, if you don't give them a proper personal protection equipment, they will not be productive beyond 40. So this is extremely important. And today, with the advent of internet, I think our today younger generation are demanding it. I would encourage that when they demand, please give it to them. It does not cost. It costs a cost of a vada pav for you per day if you give of a proper auto darkening welding helmet. So it does not cost to give them a personal protection equipment. So that's the first action plan. Then only the skilled manpower can happen. See, if a welder is not able to see the job and he will strike and then he see it, then he will not be able to do a proper job. He should use a proper personal protection equipment so he can do job properly, and this will reduce your post work. The second thing is the affordable welding equipment, and more importantly, the low cost automation. We think that if you give a robotic welding or robotic, everything gets solved. It does not. We need to educate people that what are the inputs you give it. The input is a trash, output will also be trash. Robot does not understand. End of the day, robot is also made by man. So we need to educate people. We need to have we at Fronius India, we are talking about certified robotic welding operators. Basically diploma holders will be trained on this for 45 days so that they can go to industry and they can, one operator can perform 6 to 7 welding cells together at a time. It is possible if you give them a proper training. Otherwise, you require one operator for each robotic cell. So that is what is the second thing which I would sincerely request MSMEs, because nowadays robots are available at 10 to 12 lakh rupees. It is not the same golden days. And you would be surprised to know that India is in the top 5 in the world in the robot consumption. So we are already reached, we were nowhere in 10 years back. Today, we are just behind Germany, gentlemen. So I think our robot consumption has gone up, but to take out the best out of the robot, I think the skilling and is extremely important. And the third, everybody talked about data documentation. Data is power. Data is everything. I think what demonetization brought us is a very big digital literacy. QR code on a vegetable vendor is just unheard in Europe or United States. In India, it is reality. So same data documentation, why not for manufacturing processes? The machines, what my colleague showed us, I can tell you that what parameter they use and how much time it took and how much gas, how much wire, how much power has been consumed to do those 4 jobs is available on my laptop. I can share it with you. So this is what is required for MSME, and it is possible offline as well as online and without any additional cost. So I think MSME should focus more on the data documentation so that they can show it to their end customer saying that this is what I use. And in terms of any failure, you can do the failure analysis. If you don't have a data, it is just not possible. So these are the 3 points from my side. Over to you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kamath, for sharing those 3 very important points. I now request Ameya to share his 3 important points, which could be the action points. As you're aware, we will be documenting this and publishing it on our website and sharing through various communication channels. So I welcome your points, Ameya.
Thank you, Madhuri. I spoke about, I explained, elaborated the point in my earlier talk, but I would summarize it very shortly, crisply. The first one is to work towards increasing the local workforce participation in MSMEs, and this requires multiple things to be done. One is the mindset of the local youth as well as MSME owners. You speak to MSME owners or entrepreneurs, they would say, no, I would prefer migrant workforce rather than local workforce, and vice versa. The youth also do not want to work in the sector. So mindset, but also the democratizing skill development and making them available locally for the youth. I think that is going to be of paramount importance to slightly even tilt the scale and move towards more local youth participation in MSMEs. The second one we all spoke about is about improving the level of digital skills within MSMEs. And this also, digital skills also, is on various front. The basic digital literacy that Mr. Sudarshan spoke about, but also to do with market connect using the e-commerce platform or service aggregator platforms like the Portias, Amazons of the world. But also the digital skills required to rethink operations. How do I recruit? How do I make my workforce learn? How do I pay taxes? How do I comply? It need not be done through traditional ways of working with local CAs, but you can use digital technology effectively. All MSMEs can do it, but it requires an upskilling of the MSME workforce and at least the leaders or the management strata to be able to do that effectively. And the third one is about for an action for the skill development providers. While there are deep skills like we saw welders and which will require deep hand skills that are required, or even in the healthcare industry, but we have to think about many job roles that require multiple skills or multi-skilled workforce within the MSME industry. It could be the examples that I gave about whether it is the hospitality industry or whether it is the service providers. There are opportunities to club certain skills into multi-skilling programs, and we need to think through that. So those are the three actions that I would have for the audience. Thank you. Thank you, Madhuri.
Thank you. Thank you, Ameya. I now request Anish to share his 3 action points very crisply so that everybody has this as their takeaway from the event today.
Yeah, sure. I completely echo with all the panelists in terms of the investment in technology that would help scale our MSMEs. But looking at the numbers, out of 6.3 crore MSMEs, 97% or 6 crore MSMEs are micro enterprises and very, very informal. I think one of the things that we need on an urgent basis is the informal to formal transition, the adherence to labor laws, the social security benefits, the minimum wage compliances, and the health and safety aspects that are required for an MSME unit. All of these things are basics, fundamentals that needs to be put in place. One of my recommendation to MSME community is that let's make ourselves more formal. Let's have these basic requirements from a human capital perspective put in place for organizations. I think second most important thing is MSMEs. If you look at standalone, it's very difficult to look at all of these investments, whether it's adherence to the labor laws or to investment in technology. But as a collective, there can be a lot of things that we can do. I was just looking at, I was interacting with a few group of MSMEs yesterday on another discussion where I came across that, I was looking at industrial belt in Panipat, where, there is a cotton textile manufacturing unit with 444 units employing around 1,300 people, which is roughly, 3 to 4 people per unit. But, 3 to 4 person per unit may not have enough to invest, but 1,300 people across cotton manufacturing unit can actually come together and invest in technology. They can work together to scale up the entire cotton textile manufacturing subsector, if I may call them. That second. And third more important thing is these models that are emerging, while we see a lot of adoption with large organizations, whether it's fintech companies, whether it's logistics companies. I believe that MSMEs can actually adopt the gig model, apprenticeship, contract manufacturing model significantly to scale up productivity. And the key thing that is needed for them is break down activities into tasks and look at how these tasks can be completed in the minimum possible time with the technology enablement and the right skills. And if that can be done, a gig model or an apprenticeship model can actually work wonders in terms of building up productivity for the MSME sector. So those are three things that I would recommend for organizations in the MSME sector to consider. Thank you so much, Madhuri.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Anish, for sharing these action points, which are very important for us to take it forward. I now request Professor Chandan Chowdhury to share his observations, very briefly about all the speakers so far and any other action points that he would want to add. Professor Chowdhury?
Yeah, I would like to say that I think it was amazing listening to the other panelists. Each of them got some original thought process and insights. Personally, I must tell you that this was definitely one of the best focused MSME-based event that I have attended so far. So that was one. And then personally, I'll be very happy to stay connected with the other panelists and explore how we can collaborate. So that was one point. Let me just come to three specific recommendations that I have. Number one is impact assessment as far as skilling is concerned. I think we invest a lot of money in conducting skilling. We do a lot of things, but we do not invest in understanding the impact that we have created. Primary data-driven insights. So my first recommendation is, in the context of MSMEs, we should actually conduct impact assessment, what impact skilling is making as far as improving productivity, as far as supporting MSMEs is concerned. So impact assessment. We at ISB will be very happy to collaborate with any of you who may be interested. And if you write an email to me, I'll be very happy to share with you one of our recent studies where we actually collected data, 100% of skilling that has happened within Punjab under the PMKVY initiative. We actually studied the impact. What has been the impact of those skilling? We studied what has been the impact before COVID and also after COVID. And I'll be very happy to share a copy of the report with all of you if you send me an email. So my first point was impact assessment of skilling. My second point is something that we have not discussed, but I think that's very, very important. If we look at India as an economy, India as a nation, and if we compare ourselves with other G20 countries, you will find that the female labor force participation is the lowest. At some point of time, we used to be, just ahead of Saudi Arabia. Now even Saudi Arabia is better than us. And if you don't look at G20 countries, if you look at our neighboring countries, we are even worse than Pakistan, Bangladesh. So just to give you a data, in 2005, female labor force participation rate in India was 31.89%. So in 2005, we were at 31.89%. It has steadily come down. And today we are at 20.23%, which is the worst among G20 countries, but one of the worst in the entire world. Now, when you compare our 20.23%, we are talking about women who are in their working age. We are talking about women who are looking for jobs. Out of 100, that number is 20.23%. And this number got to go up. And I personally believe, and we can look at what happened by 2025. If we got to become a $5 trillion economy, we got to play our full team. We cannot win a cricket match by fielding just 50% of the players, just 5 or 6 players out of 11 players. In India, women is almost 50%. In our labor force, we cannot have just 20% women. It also got to go up a number which is very equal to the male labor force. And I think that will be very important. Again, I wanted to share with you, we have just started a research project, which is about how can you improve female labor force participation rate in the manufacturing sector. We'll be very happy to collaborate with any of the panelists here. So my second point was that we need to think about women. We need to really leverage them. Unless we leverage women talent, only male cannot transform this country. And they have not done it since 1947, and it's not going to happen maybe by 2025. So that was my second point. My third point is about building digital infrastructure, not just physical roads, physical highways, physical building, you call the incubators. No, digital infrastructure. Digital infrastructure not for tracking whether MSME is paying GST. That should not be the focus, right? We got to think that entrepreneurs who are MSME owners, they're honest people. They're honest people. If they make profit, they will pay income tax. We need to assume that. We should not assume that they all are safe, everywhere track, what are they paying? And more than what are they paying, what are they getting? Where are they getting from? I think our focus, I'm not saying that's not important. I'm saying it will be important that we build digital infrastructure to help MSMEs do innovation. So digital innovation infrastructure will be extremely critical. We can have a model which is private-public partnership. We can have model which is cluster-based, as some of the panelists suggested. But I think these are the top three things that come to my mind. And it has been awesome, being a part of this event. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Madhuri.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for reiterating and reinforcing the three important points, which are impact assessment, participation of female labor force, and most importantly, you touched upon trust in MSMEs. I think that's really the most important thing. When we say MSMEs, the important aspect is trust. So I think I would like to reinforce this again, and also the need for digital infrastructure building. But before we close, we have quite a few questions coming on our YouTube channel. So shall we pick up about 3 questions? Because of lack of time, I would request all of you to please stay on. Maybe just 3 questions. The first one is about this person. He's saying disbursement of skill modules through a TV channel is the need of the hour. Is there any such initiative shaping up? Anybody? Yeah, is there any such thing coming up in India where we are talking about skill development training programs through a TV channel? And second question is to do with, this is actually for Professor Chowdhury. How can we help to increase the productivity of MSMEs in the apparel sector? This was one of the questions from a participant.
Yeah.
Would you like to answer, sir?
I think this is a very important question. We seldom discuss that textile sector, in fact, contributes maximum in terms of employment among all sectors, next to just farming sector. So right from, so textile sector is very important. The question was apparel sector, right? How do we enhance productivity? Now, we have done a study to understand impact of Industry 4.0 on the textile sector. And then I think we'll be releasing our report in next 2 months. There's a lot that can be done to enhance productivity in the apparel sector. And our study shows that almost 54% of the total jobs which are there in the textile sector, they are going to be replaced by machines. And you will have many new jobs come up which are going to be hybrid, where machine and people would collaborate. So I think skilling is going to be very, very important because it is just a question of time. So just to sum up, apparel sector productivity can be very significantly enhanced. And if you compare productivity of apparel sector in India, and if you compare it with, let's say, Bangladesh, right, you will find that Bangladesh has done some phenomenal job in last, I would say, 10 to 15 years. Over to you, Dr. Madhuri.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for answering this question. The last question I would like to pick up, which is very pertinent, I feel, is it's about helping MSMEs become digitally connected. The realities on the ground are very different when we are talking about MSMEs. So could anyone please answer this question? How can we go ahead?
I mentioned in my talk, because I told all the tier 1 and OEMs are moving far ahead in industry 4.0. It is the responsibility of them to take along with the supply chain. Ultimately, if, for example, Bosch has a supplier of base of about 500 suppliers, predominantly MSMEs, and it becomes their more ultimate responsibility to take everybody together. So as we said, the digital infrastructure comes with a cost. And Professor also mentioned it, everybody needs to work together building a digital infrastructure. So that solves most of the problem, which can be made affordable. So industry and the government should work together to support MSMEs in digital transformation.
Okay. Ameya, would you want to add to this?
Yeah, just one point. Every MSME that we have in the country is some way or the other connected, integrated with large corporates as well. There is a responsibility with the large corporates also to do that integration of their supply chain in a manner and help the MSMEs also pick up the digital skills. I think there is, it's not only a responsibility of, let's say, skill development, government and the MSMEs themselves, but the large corporates also have a potential role to play, and some of them are definitely taking that path as well.
I would like to, just add one point also here, as far as training is concerned. So we are also very much taking a lot of initiatives to improve the things on ground, because on ground things need to change. So even if they have, the mobiles with them. So what we are doing is, we are even using those mobiles, because see, we have to look into the scenario where 90% of them are micro enterprise. Most of MSMEs, 90% of them are very small vendors, small barbers and everyone. So they have, we have done is we have integrated, we are working with ISRO, and helping them to make aware how, we can use location-based marketing can be done through them, through those. They have a Navik app. Through those integrated apps, something like Google app, they can, showcase their products, market about themselves, reach out to the consumers. That is what we have been doing. And there are a lot of things which are there in a pipeline, and we hope to achieve that. The main thing is we have to use the digital infrastructure, build that, and then capitalize on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other points anybody wishes to share? Yeah, otherwise we come to the close of this, but before that I would like to thank all the participants who have been with us for the last 1.5 hours or a little more, and also showing so much of enthusiasm and interest through your questions. Sorry, we won't be able to take all the questions, but we will definitely get back, because all the questions are there on our YouTube channel. We will pick them up and try to answer them, because some of them are specific, very specific questions. And also I wish to take a moment to thank the entire NSN team, Sahitya, Pratyusha, Ajay, Madhu, Rajesh and Pranati, for being together, and we worked very hard to make this a very smooth kind of an event. And then last but not the least, all the panelists, Professor Chowdhury, Ameya, Sudarshan sir, Anish, Sandeep, and Mr. Kamath, please accept our wholehearted thanks for being a part of the panel today. This means a lot to us. Your partnership also means a lot to NSN. Thanks again. Thank you so much. We look forward to be in touch with you and carry forward the discussions and see to it that some action points get implemented. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.